throw me, won't break me, won't scare me no more. Fear must have thought I was faithless when it came for my heart. 'Cause I got a song that will never die. I know your love is the reason why. I'll sing the night into the morning. I'll sing the fear into your praise. I'll sing my soul into your presence. Whenever I say your name, let the devil know not today. Tell me, did the enemy panic as you took up that cross? Tell me, did the darkness cry mercy as you rolled back that rod? 'Cause I know your life is a life in mine. I know your love is the reason why. I'll sing the night into the morning. I'll sing the fear into your praise. I'll sing my soul into your presence. Whenever I say your name, let the devil know not today. Whenever I say your name, Jesus, let the devil know not today. No, not ever again. Your love stood down to crush the devil's head. Fear is just a liar running out of breath. Fight beneath your feet. I'm standing on Jesus' name. So let the devil know not today. Let the devil know not today. No, no, not now, not ever again. Jesus, let the devil know not today, not today, not today. I'll sing the night into the morning. I'll sing the fear into your praise. I'll sing my soul into your presence. Whenever I say your name, Jesus, let the devil know not today. Let the devil know not today. No, 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 not ever again. Jesus, let the devil know not today. Let the devil know not today.
Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us at Grace Fellowship Juniata, and I appreciate you tuning in for our streaming service this morning. We're glad that you have taken the time to be a part of our church service today. I've got a few announcements for you this morning. I want to talk a little bit about what today's service is going to look like, and then we'll jump right into our service from there. The first thing I want to say is if you have been contributing to our church either through online giving, mobile giving, or if you're a person that's been sending a check in for tithe, we appreciate your contributions and we appreciate your support. If it weren't for your ability to continue giving, it would not be possible for us to keep doing the things that we're doing as a church, and I want to thank you for that. Tonight, our youth group is meeting at 6 o'clock p.m. Our youth program is available for all kids that are in grades 6 through 12. So if you've got a 6th through 12th grader that would be interested in coming to our church and taking part in our services, we would love to have them be a part of it. Just go ahead and send a message to the church, and we'll go ahead and reach back out to you as quickly as we can and try and make those arrangements happen. Tomorrow night, we have Women's Grace Group at 6:30 p.m. here at the church. They meet downstairs. They'll be down there. They're going to be continuing through Jeannie Allen's series called Get Out of Your Head. They're working through the book of Philippians. It's been a wonderful time for them to get together and meet and discuss this topic and be able to work through that together. Tuesday night, all of the rest of our midweek programming is back up and running too. Children of Grace resumed last week. That is for all kids that are in K through 5. So if you've got a kindergartner through a 5th grader that would be interested in taking part of that, that's Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Men's Grace Group for all guys ages 18 and up is going to be happening Wednesday night. So we're continuing to work through the series called Culture Shock by Chip Ingram. So if you would be interested in joining us for that, we would love to see you out here for that as well. On Sunday, September 27th, right after church, we're doing a get-together. We're having a New to Grace luncheon. We as a church are working our way through the process of restarting and getting everything back up and running as a campus. This process is going to take some time, and we've had a lot of new people joining us lately. As a result of that, we're having a meal here at the church at 12:30 on September 27th. If you would like to be a part of that and get to know some of the names and the faces and the people that are sort of behind the scenes here at the church, we would love to have you take part in that as well. Go ahead and send a message to the church and we'll get you connected with that also. We're continuing to collect candy for our trunk or treat that we're having here. It will be a contactless trunk or treat sort of event. So for all of the people that are still a little bit gun shy about COVID, they're still going to have an opportunity to get their kids out, bring them here, and have a chance for them to get some candy. So if you are interested in donating, we would love to have you drop something off here at the church. We'll put it in with the rest of the candy we're going to be collecting. If you're a person that would maybe be more interested in decorating a car and actually being here on the 31st, we would love to see you help with that as well. So go ahead and send us a message and we'll get squared away with that also. If you have any prayer requests or needs or anything like that, go ahead and shoot us a message. We would love to get back to you as soon as possible on those things. And most importantly, know that if it's something where you just say, I need prayer for whatever the circumstance might be, we would love to be able to pray for you as well. So just go ahead and shoot those messages off to the church and we'll respond as quickly as we can. We're also still seeking talented musicians and vocalists. We're working through the process of structuring and building a praise team. If that is you or somebody that you know, please let us know. We would love to get them in here for an audition. In the meantime, we want to give a great big thank you to the Heart of the Lakes praise team for all of the work that they've been doing for our worship sets and our songs and all of those things that have been happening for the past several months as we've been working our way toward having our own praise team kind of put together. They've been doing all of our online service stuff for us, and we are incredibly grateful. So with that, we're going to keep going with our service, but I've got one final announcement for you guys that we kind of need to cover just real quick about things that are happening with this week's online service. So this week and this week only is the time that we're going to be kind of making this change, but we're shifting things up. We're changing things a lot for how we're doing our service live this week because this week's topic is worship. So we're going to have some different songs mixed in throughout our service, and as a result of that, we're not going to be able to show you this week's service as a live stream. So because we can't do that for this week, I'm going to put on here an older recording of an older sermon that we've done kind of in the past from a series that we really enjoyed. I hope that you guys would enjoy it as well. And if you're a person that says, hey, I would have loved to have been able to get connected with that sooner, I can make sure that we add you to our email list so you get all of those updates as well. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of our service this morning, and we're going to continue on with worship. Have a blessed day.
faith I saw the stream, thy flowing wounds supply. Redeeming love has been my theme. It shall be till I die. It shall be till I die. It shall be till I die. Redeeming love has been my theme. It shall be till I die. Come on. When darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, oh, I won't be shaken. Oh, I won't be shaken. 'Cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Shame no longer, and shame no longer has a place to hide. No, not me. For I am not a captive to the lies. Oh, I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. Oh, I won't be shaken. Oh, I won't be shaken. 'Cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. Oh, there's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. Power in your name. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. There's power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Come on, my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Oh, I'm standing in your love. Oh, Lord, I'm standing in
person or if you're watching online because you couldn't make it in, we're glad you chose to be here with us. So if you've been here and kind of following along with what we've been talking about the past few weeks, we've talked about how to let go of bitterness. We've talked about how to let go of any myriad of things that have been weighing each and every one of us down, from wanting stuff to try to kind of fill that void, to try and figure out what it means to be at peace for this time of year. Well, we're going to be talking today about what it means to start letting go of the past, your past, my past, looking through and saying, there are things in my life that I've dealt with or maybe haven't dealt with that have changed who I am as a person. That maybe it's been positive, maybe it's been negative, but there are things that have happened in my life, and as I've gone through, sometimes I've dealt with them and handled it appropriately and accordingly, and sometimes I haven't. I've just kind of picked it up, put it in a suitcase, carried it over my back, and I'm still carrying it along with me even now. So I want to share with you what today's bottom line is, and it's this. Your past has made you who you are, but it doesn't define who you are. The things that you've experienced, the things that you've dealt with, the things that have happened in your life have inevitably shaped you, molded you, and changed you into the person that you are today. But those things don't have to continue to have a stranglehold on your life. Now, every single person in here knows probably somebody who either had a tremendous childhood growing up. They maybe were raised by God-fearing, God-honoring parents who loved the Lord and raised their child in church. And somewhere along the way, that child ended up making some terrible decisions, went down a path that everybody wishes that they hadn't, and ended up finding themselves far away from the Lord. Likewise, everyone here may know somebody who grew up in an abusive childhood, where there was something that was happening, where everything said, this person should grow up to be a terrible individual. And yet, they found a way to come to the Lord, draw near to Him, and keep going through the process of learning what it means to be a Christ follower. If you can think of somebody who falls into either one of those categories, or maybe it's even you, maybe there's something about you or something about your past that you know is back there and in the back of your mind that is still weighing heavy on your heart, that's kind of keeping you from saying, I'm unwilling to fully embrace what God has for me as a result of this item or that item. And if that's you this morning, we're going to be looking through some of the ways to start letting go of that. To kind of open up that suitcase and say, I've got to air some of this out because I don't want to carry it with me anymore because it's too much, it's too hard, and I don't want to have a part of this any longer. Now, what that means is if you're examining what your past looks like, what your present looks like, and what's going to happen in the future, it simply means you have to acknowledge this. You can dwell on the past or move toward the future, but you can't do both. It's not possible to do both. If you've got, whether it's a sin issue or it's some sort of trauma that has happened in your past, that you're hoping if you just get far enough away from it, it's going to stop weighing you down, but you can't stop thinking about it, you're going to constantly be held captive by whatever that situation or circumstance may have been. Now, as you think through what that looks like and how that plays out in your life, there are people that you think of about the way they've dealt with things, how they've gone through, and how they've worked with them, and you've stood back, seen how they handle it, and said, that's not going to get you where you want to go. It's not going to end up the way you want it to end up, and it's not going to happen the way that you wish and hope and pray that it would. But even in the midst of all of that, there was no telling them that they couldn't get where they needed to go from where they were. They had to learn it for themselves. Now, we're going to be opening up to the book of Philippians today, so if you guys want to go ahead and turn on your devices, or go ahead and open up your Bibles, it's in the second half of the Bible. It's in the part we call the New Testament. We're going to be opening up to chapter 3. So while you guys are turning there, I want to go ahead and give you sort of a little bit of background on what Paul is writing about and what he's talking about at this particular point in time. Now, there are people who call themselves Christ followers now and call themselves Christ followers then that ended up getting so caught up in who they were, what their personality was, what their status was, what their level of prestige might have been, that they ended up putting that and ranking it higher than the fact that they were a Christ follower. Now, this was not a unique situation that just happened to maybe one or two people. It was happening to everybody. And before he came to know the Lord, it was also happening with Paul. Now, Paul, before he became saved, was known as Saul of Tarsus. He was this guy who was large and in charge, and he had everything going for him. He was a Roman citizen, but he was also born Jewish. So he had both cultures kind of as his history, which meant he could basically go anywhere and do anything because of who he was. Now, what he tells us in the early verses of chapter 3 is that there were things in his life that he held at very high value. Things like his legacy. At one point in time, he thought, it's my job to eradicate this new faith called the Way that people that are following Jesus Christ are abiding by, that they're listening to and working with. He said it was my job to eradicate all of them. And he did so by putting them to death, by being the one who, whenever he brought charges up against somebody like Stephen, all of the other Pharisees and Sadducees followed his lead. So one of the things that he was the most proud of was his legacy. Another was his prestige, the past prestige he had of, I am this guy who is rich, who has people following me, who has people listening to me. I am this leader of leaders that when people have a problem or a question, they come to me. They look at me as the guy. That's who Paul was at the time. That was another thing of his past that he was proud of. He had his personal history. He had the ability to say, I am not only born Jewish, but I'm also a person of great financial means. Bottom line, he was loaded. He had all kinds of money, all kinds of power, probably lived in one of the biggest houses in the area. He was the guy. He was the person that if you were another Jewish leader of the day, you wanted to be Paul, or at that time, Saul. He had his desires. He wanted more power. He wanted more money. He wanted more ability to say, people are listening to me because of who I am. When I speak, they silence themselves to hear what I'm going to say. His desire was to keep doing what he had been doing. His title, he loved being a Pharisee. He loved being this guy who was this religious leader that people kept turning to. These are the things that Paul keeps going down this list and saying, I was proud of all of these things. I counted all of these things as important. They were all valuable and they all mattered to me. But as we look at what he's going to say in Philippians 3, verse 8, after he came to know Jesus, it changed everything for him. All of this stuff, it no longer ranked where it maybe had looked as being important before, as continuing to be important later on in his life. Here's what he says, starting in verse 8. Yes, everything else is worthless when compared to the infinite value of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord. For his sake, I have discarded everything else, counting it all as garbage, so I could gain Christ. Think about what that list looks like for a minute. Imagine in your life if you said all of the things like this that I think matter right now are garbage. They're not even something I want to keep. I want to put them in a hefty bag and get them out of my life. Because if I do, I can have a greater relationship with Jesus. That's what Paul is saying with this. He's not just saying, hey, I'm trying to separate myself from these things simply because I don't want them anymore. I don't like them anymore. I don't need them anymore. I want to separate myself from these things because it's holding me back from a better, stronger, deeper relationship with Jesus Christ. To make that mental switch had to be something else for his life. To say that all of these things that I held dear and treasured and important from my past, everything that mattered to me, pales in comparison to my relationship with Jesus. It's one of the things that each and every person that is a Christ follower is striving for. It's one of those things that as we look at that, we're like, that is what I want. To be able to say, this stuff doesn't matter to me any longer. Here's what he goes on to say in verse 9. At the end of verse 8, he said, so I could gain Christ and become one with him. I no longer count my own righteousness through obeying the law. Rather, I become righteous through faith in Christ. For God's way of making us right with himself depends on faith. Now, I want to hang out here on this verse for just a minute. Because if you're looking at your life, whether you're a Christ follower or whether you're somebody who says, you know what, I'm not there yet. I don't want to sign that dotted line. I don't want to be that person that says, I'm ready to follow Jesus. You might still look at the Bible and say, I don't believe anything in here. And if that's you, think about what it would mean for a minute for there to be something more important and more valuable than everything else that you hold dear. Whatever that might be for you, whatever the thing is that you look at and say, this is what matters the most to me, being willing to say, I care less about this than I do about being a follower of Jesus Christ. It would take something spectacular to make you lay that down and walk away from it. It would take something huge to make you say, this is to the point where I am with this. And I don't care about these things anymore. Because frankly, they pale in comparison to what is going to happen next. Now, Paul continues on here to say this. I don't mean to say that I've already achieved these things or that I've already reached perfection. He is speaking to every Christ follower in the room today with that statement. See, if you're a person who says, you know what, I want to be that. I want to have that in my life. I want my goal to be being in a relationship with Jesus where I can say other stuff doesn't matter. Paul is telling you here, it's okay if you're not there yet. He wasn't there yet either. He hadn't reached that level of perfection. But he's still trying. He's still trying to get to the point where he will be able to say, these things don't matter to me as much as they once did because my relationship with Christ matters more. He continues on to say this, but I press on to possess that perfection for which Christ Jesus first possessed me. No, dear brothers and sisters, I have not achieved it, but I focus on this one thing, forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. Now that verse is incredibly important. The forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. Now for you, you might look at your life and say, there are parts that I don't want to forget because they made me, they shaped me, they molded me, they grew me. And this isn't saying that. We're going to dive into in just a second here exactly what it means to start forgetting the painful, forgetting the hurtful, forgetting the negative parts of your life that you're still carrying with you today in favor of what God has for you in the future. So your past, your yesterday, your 2019, that's not going to say up there, but if your past, your yesterday, your 2019 has made you who you are, it doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to be what you continue to carry with you each and every day, day in, day out, all day long. Because the things in your life don't have to have that kind of a stranglehold on you anymore. So the forgetting that is used here, I don't often hit you guys with the Greek or the Hebrew or anything like that. So if you're someone who says, you know what, I'm not into the whole language part of it, stick with me for just a second here. The forgetting that is used here is actually the Greek word epilanthotomai. Okay? Epilanthotomai. That simply means either forgetting, neglecting / no longer caring for, or forgotten or give over to oblivion. So what it's saying here is neglecting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. Now, there's a difference between forgetting something and neglecting something. If you grew up and you had a painful childhood, or you've had a painful marriage or a painful relationship, and that has dictated how you move forward even now, how you treat your current spouse, how you treat your kids, if any of that has been a part of your past, it's not saying don't learn from it and forget it. It's saying neglect it. It no longer has to be center stage. It no longer has to be the thing that is at the forefront of your mind in every action that you take beyond that. It's saying neglect the pain and the hurt from loss of losing somebody that you love. Neglect the pain and the hurt from going through a tragic circumstance where you may have been on your knees praying and praying and praying and praying, and God's answer was still no. It's saying don't look at that and be beholden to what that did in your life at that time, at that moment, because it's in the past. Learn from it and move on. Experience it and move on. If you're a person who this year, at the beginning of 2019, made a New Year's resolution and said, you know what, I'm going to read my Bible every single day this year, and I'm going to make it through the entire Bible by the end of the year. If you made that resolution and you haven't gotten there yet, you ain't going to make it. Just telling you, it's not going to happen. But if you're somebody who said, you know what, I'm going to plan things out where I'm going to grow closer to God by doing a small group, or by doing devotionals, or by doing something like that, and you follow through with it, you're able to see that those decisions have impacted your present. But just because you read your Bible yesterday does not automatically cover you for today. Just because you prayed to God 2 weeks ago doesn't mean that you don't need to pray to Him now. Because those things, those experiences, positive or negative, are all in the past. Who here has seen the movie The Lion King? The original, the good one. Okay. No offense to the people who like the new one. It's great too. But not as good. But whenever you watch that movie, there's a moment with a monkey named Rafiki where he says, the past does hurt, but you can continue to be in pain from it, or you can learn from it. And that's basically a concept that is being promoted here by Paul, of you can learn from what happened, but you don't have to sit there and continue rubbing the wound that caused you pain. You can say, you know what, that wound is there, I know that it's there, and yeah, it still hurts from time to time, but I'm not going to stay solely focused on just that, because there's things that are greater and more important going forward. And Paul explains it like this: I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly praise for which God, through Christ Jesus, is calling us. Whatever you've dealt with yesterday, whatever you're dealing with today, it pales in comparison to what your tomorrow can hold if you're a follower of Jesus Christ. Now, that doesn't mean that if you've got a problem today and you give yourself over to Jesus Christ, that tomorrow those bills are going to disappear. It doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that there's a future for you that is greater. There's something beyond whatever you're struggling with now that is greater and matters vastly more than whatever you're currently dealing with, than whatever you've dealt with months ago, than whatever happened years ago that you still haven't dealt with. You know, you might be a person who says, you know what, I've never been in an abusive relationship, but I'm constantly hard on myself. You might be a person that says, I've never dealt with depression, but I have moments where I'm really down. I've never dealt with this situation or that situation, but I know what those flavors kind of taste like as I've lived through certain parts of that life. But in the midst of that, it's important to remember that the past has passed. It's gone. It's over, and it's done. Likewise, your past has passed. It's over. It's gone. It's done. Which means whatever happens from today going forward into the future can be shaped by what happened in your past, but it doesn't have to have control over it any longer. You can be free from whatever those things were that were holding you back historically. So I want to ask you guys this. What from your past matters to you right now? What from your past matters so much to you right now that if you could go back to it this very second, you would accept it? Maybe for some of you it's a car. You know, maybe you had a car that you just loved, you spent a lot of time with. You know, you built a lot of money into it, you poured money into it, and that's something that matters to you, a material possession that you would want to go back to. For others, maybe it's a relationship. You are in a relationship now, and yeah, you're happy, but if you could go back in time and change one or two things about how you ended the previous relationship, you would take it in a heartbeat. For some of you, maybe it's your finances. Maybe you've spent so much time building and pouring into this nest egg that you've been hanging on to and keeping track of and making sure that you're getting all of your finances in order so that one day you can retire early and be happy and successful and not have to worry. Maybe that's the thing for you that is the part of your past that you treasure the most. Or maybe for some of you it's stability. You remember what it was like to have a solid family structure, a family oriented in love and compassion and grace and forgiveness, and your family has fallen apart for one reason or another. And you think, man, if I could just go back and have that back, rather than working on the here and now and trying to fix it into whatever it can look like today. For some of you, maybe it's a legacy. You're like, you know what? I give and I'm generous and I'm humble and I do whatever I can to make things better for other people. Because that's what matters to me, is that whenever I'm gone, there's something here that is a lasting part of my life that shows that I left a mark on this world. For others of you, especially at Christmas time and New Year's, maybe it's a habit. Something that you've always done every single year, where if it doesn't happen just that way, and just like it always has before, you can't handle it anymore. Like for some people, they say, this year, it didn't feel like Christmas because we didn't have snow. Or if I don't get a chance to sit down and watch The Grinch every week before Christmas, I don't feel like it's Christmas time. Or if I don't have an opportunity to gather together with my family and friends and be able to sit and celebrate, it hasn't been Christmas for me. If that's you, where you're so caught up and ingrained in those habits that you realize, this is something that is holding me back from whatever God has next for me, for my family, for my life. If you're so caught up in those moments, it's one of the things that's got to go. Maybe it's your status. Maybe you say, you know what, I've got such a level of status at my job or in my family or in my community. I'm the head honcho of my HOA and everyone looks to me for my leadership. If that's you and you're saying, you know what, this is what matters. People recognize that I've held this role for so long that I'm important. It's got to go. Same thing with recognition. Your name's been in the paper for something that you've done. Or maybe you've been on the news because you've taken part in something. It's time to let it go. Do any of those things lead others to Christ? If any of those is a part of your life that you're holding as being important and being valuable and being something that matters, do any of them lead somebody to Jesus? And if it doesn't bring people to Jesus, does it really have value? Think about what Paul said. Paul said, for me, I look at my past and I consider it all to be garbage. Every bit of it. Because if it's not something that is wholly and completely focused on bringing people to Jesus Christ or into a growing relationship with Him, it doesn't matter. It's over. It's gone. I want to get rid of it now. If that's you this morning, what is the thing that is holding you back? What is the thing that you've got in the front of your mind that says, this matters so much more to me than a relationship with Jesus Christ, or than somebody else's relationship with Jesus Christ, that you're willing to elevate the past to a status where it almost becomes an idol for what you want from your life? Think through what that plays out as for a minute. At some point, if you're elevating something like that from your past to that level, isn't that a sin at that point? Isn't it saying that this matters more than anything else to me, and as a result of it, I can't seem to let it go. I can't seem to move past it and beyond it. The abuse that I was dealt whenever I was a child and that I had to be subjected to, I'm still hurting and angry and frustrated. And because of having to deal with that and go through it, I can't have a good relationship with my kids as a result of it. Or because of the relationship that I had with my spouse when she broke my heart and walked away, or when he broke my heart and walked away, that damage has inflicted and wounded me so badly that my current marriage is paying the price for it. Or my belief that God didn't care about something that I prayed for in my past has so wounded me that I refuse to take something to Him now. Because for me, I don't think He cares. I don't think He's going to hear me. I don't think He's going to answer me. And I don't think He wants to have a relationship with me. Because sometime 30 years ago, I said a prayer and God said no. If that's you and you're in that position, it's the end of 2019. You've got less than a week left before 2020. Let this be the last year that you carry that baggage with you. Let this series and everything that we've talked about, all of the things that you've been carrying and loading down with and trying to get through, let this be the time when you say, I'm done. I don't want it anymore. I don't need it. It's not helpful to me, and it's preventing me from doing what God has next in my life. It's time. It's time to let it go. It's time to say, that stuff in my life is garbage. I don't need it. And that stuff in my life is hindering my relationship with other people around me. I've asked this question before, usually on a one-on-one basis, but I'm going to ask it collectively here today. What in your life, in your history, in your past, in your church, in your family, what in any of those venues matters more than another person's relationship with Jesus Christ? Is there anything? Is there anything that you would say, I hold so much value to this, that if it prevents somebody else from coming to Jesus, I'm kind of okay with that because this is more valuable to me than that? Is there anything in your life that holds that kind of value? And each and every one of you here know the answer to that question. If the answer for you is yes, it's time to start praying about it. Whatever it is, whatever that item is from your past that you're saying, this is so valuable and important to me that I'll give it over to God when He takes it from my cold, dead fingers. If you're putting that much value into something, it's time to check your heart. It's time to look at the things that you're holding dear and saying, if that's not something that God is holding dear, I got to let it go. And I don't need to pick it back up again. It's time to drop it, walk away from it, and move on. If you look at what it means to neglect the things from the past, you're just not giving them attention. You're simply walking away and saying, I'm not going to focus on this anymore. And it's okay to do that. It's biblical if that thing has prevented you from continuing to have a relationship with God or to bring others into a relationship with Him. I want you guys to all go ahead and stand up for a minute right now, if you would, please. Every single person in this room has another person that they're worried about for one reason or another. You have a situation or a circumstance where there has been something that has happened in their life where you're concerned about them. If there's forgiveness that needs to be offered between the two of you, because maybe they've wronged you or you've wronged them, maybe there's an apology that needs to be made, let this be the week that it happens. I don't believe in doing New Year's resolutions, but I do believe in resolving and correcting and restoring relationships between people. Don't let 2019 go out and be just one more year where you didn't make that change. Lay it down, cast it aside, give it to God, and move on. This is the year to say, nothing else in my life matters more than Jesus. Pull that person in this week. Maybe you're going to see him for New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Pull them in and say, we need to talk. I don't want this to go down the way it has been. None of these other things in my life matter. Only Jesus is what I'm focused on. Only Jesus is what I want to be giving attention and honor and glory to. All of these things that I hold valuable don't matter in comparison to Him. And I want to fix the relationship that we have. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father,
again. God, I'm begging, please again. I need you. Oh, I need you.